Welcome to Day Talk. We're here today with Jerome S. Bruner, author of Toward the Theory of Instruction. Jerome's book is at the center of a debate about the role of school and teachers in our current education system. Mr. Bruner, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Mr. Bruner, could you give us a little background on your feelings about the role of formal schooling in the development of knowledge?
Education is in a constant state of flux. The rate of change in our society requires that we constantly redefine how we should educate each generation.
And, is this your theory of evolutionary instrumentalism that I've been hearing so much about?
It is. Man's use of mind is dependent upon his ability to develop and use tools or instruments or technologies that make it possible for him to express and amplify his powers. That is, without continued mental exercise and evolution, we devolve. The educational system is the sole means of disseminating information. It is the sole agent of evolution.
Now, if we are to buy into this idea that formal education is critical to keeping us from reverting back to our days as apes, what then do you recommend we do in our schools?
Well, first, it is critical that schools recognize that there are three critical components of all teaching and learning: opportunities for manipulation and action, development with perceptual organization and imagery, and finally representation through symbolic apparatus. Like Vygotsky, I believe that the idea of readiness isn't dependent on age, but rather the teacher provides opportunities for a student to develop readiness.
This sounds like a tall order for our teachers out there. How do you recommend teachers go about living up to your goals for education?
Great question. The first thing to understand is what we need to focus on is the process for teaching, not just theories of learning like those presented by Piaget, Vygotsky, and others. Once we have a strong theory for teaching, we can apply this theory to any content area.
Have you been able to identify this teaching theory?
I have. There are four critical factors to be aware of when developing curriculum or learning experiences for a student: the student's predisposition, structure of the learning experience, the sequence of experiences, and the reinforcement of student behaviors. It is critical that these components are considered when a lesson is being developed, but should not be considered to be rigid. They should be contingent on the learner.
Can you tell me a little more about what you mean when you say a student's predisposition?
Definitely. I am referring to how a student enters into a learning experience. In order to get a student to engage in a task, the student needs something to get him started, something to keep it going, and something to keep the student's explorations from being random. In order for students to be in an effective disposition, they need to see that the benefit of the learning experience exceeds the cost. This means that the student needs to feel that learning something with the help of the teacher is a better overall deal than trying to learn the content without any help.
It sounds like this work would require a lot of planning on the teacher's part. Does the development of the structure of the learning experience require the same level of teacher engagement?
I'd say yes and no. It does require that the teacher have a rich knowledge of the students that he or she will be working with, so that the selected instructional tasks are simple enough that the learner can access it, but engaging enough to get the student hooked into the content. This means deciding whether to use actions, pictures, or symbols to introduce a task or concept based on student needs. In addition to deciding the modality for teaching, the instructor also needs to consider the economy of the mode. If the task that the student is asked to engage in is too cumbersome and tedious, the student will not continue to work on it. However, hopefully knowing his or her students is part of the work that a teacher is already doing and doesn't require added tonal work.
It seems that predisposition and structure are interrelated. Are the other two aspects of your teaching theory also connected to these concepts?
Absolutely. Sequencing and the structure of the learning experience are inextricably related. Once the structure of the learning experiences has been defined, the teacher must determine what order to present those experiences. That is, the teacher has to decide if he or she is going to present the formal concept, then unpack that concept with multiple hands-on experiences, or if the hands-on experiences should come first, followed by a formalization. The decision regarding how to sequence the experiences should again be based on what the teacher knows about the student. There is no unique sequence for all learners, and the optimum in any particular case will depend upon a variety of factors, including past learning, stage of development, nature of the material, and individual differences.
That leaves us with reinforcement. Is reinforcement what it sounds like, rewarding students for accomplishing the task?
To some extent, yes. However, when it comes to reinforcement, we are talking about praise for the right stuff, and correctives when needed. The reinforcements and correctives need to be used carefully, as students can become overly reliant on the reinforcement and correctives that are provided by the teacher instead of developing an intrinsic ability to monitor the accuracy of one's own learning.
Wow, it sounds like teachers should be in line for a raise. If you were to give our viewers one final thought to take them out, what would it be?
A curriculum must contain many tracks leading to the same general goal, but those tracks should include careful planning on the part of the teacher.
Thanks to our guest today, Jerome Bruner. See you next time on Day Talk.